Hi everyone, this is Robin, and this is the last week this week for week 2. So just as a reminder, we went over this last week, that this class is really focused on consulting. And consulting, we always think of the consulting triangle, and there's 3 parts to it. The first part is technical skills, and as we talked about last week, for our purposes, technical skills will be HRD knowledge and skills or industry knowledge and skills. The next part of the triangle is the consulting process itself and the skills around the consulting process. And so that will take you from the first step all the way through the last step and the conclusion of the consulting process. And then the third side of the triangle are the consulting skills, or what we refer to as competencies, that you need in order to pull all this off. And these, for our class, are going to be largely focused on interpersonal skills. So this class is not going to focus on technical skills. That's all the other classes that you have in our program. But it is going to be focused on the consulting process and on the consulting competencies. So the consulting process, we're going to learn that by reading the book and by doing case studies and exercises. And you're going to have a forum post each week from week 2 till the end of the semester, where you demonstrate your knowledge and expertise and understanding of the materials from that week on the consulting process. And then for the consulting skills or consulting competencies, you're going to do some individual practice in your real life and create a reflection post where you talk about how those experiences went and what you learned from those practice experiences. So each week, you're starting with week 2, you're going to have 2 posts that are due. One post will be on the consulting process, and the other one will be on the individual practice that you had on the consulting skills or competencies for that week. All right, another thing I wanted to talk about is this idea of, am I a consultant or not? I saw several things last week in your forum post that made me want to talk about this. So there are 3 kinds of consultants that I want to talk about. The first is an external consultant. And an external consultant is what most of us think about when we think of the word consultant. So this is someone who's a freelancer or who works for a consulting firm that is hired by other companies. So this is someone external to a company who an organization hires to work with that company. I don't think anybody in here is currently an external consultant. The second kind is an internal consultant. And an internal consultant is someone who has a job inside a company. You're an employee of a company, but you, through the nature of your job, are consulting with other people in the organization or other departments in the organization. So if you're an HRD internal consultant, you might be in HRD or training, you might be in HR, you might be in organizational development and change management, you might be in performance improvement, you might be in diversity, you might be in some sort of technical area. So it's the part of the nature of your job is to consult with other departments and individuals in your company. That's an internal consultant. And then there's sort of a third group, which is you're someone with expertise. And so you could be from any functional area, and you could be a technical employee, but you're someone who gets assigned projects or work gets assigned to you. And because you're an expert, people rely on you for information and advice so that you might, in fact, do some consulting. It's not a core part of your job like it is with an internal consultant, but you might find yourself doing some consulting. So I wanted to go through this because I saw several of you in your posts and a little bit in the pre-class survey, some of the early responses I saw from the pre-class survey, where you were talking about external consultants. And just as a reminder, this class is not about how to be an external consultant in the sense that it's not about how do I start a consulting practice, how do I find leads, how do I get hired, what are the legal ramifications, how do I do contracts, how do I set up payroll. None of that is what we're covering in this class. This class is covering the consulting process, and the consulting skills. So it's the consulting process and the consulting skills are something an external consultant uses, and it's something an internal consultant uses, and it's someone with expertise who might be called upon to consult can use. But it's not the nuts and bolts of setting up a consulting class. That's a consulting practice. That's not what we're doing in this class. And the other thing I want to mention is the formality by which you use the consulting process is going to be different in these three roles. So an external consultant tends to be very formal in the way that they use the consulting process. An internal consultant may be slightly less formal in how they use that. And someone who has expertise is going to be much more informal in how they use this consulting process. So I just wanted to go over sort of those three, am I a consultant and in what way am I a consultant roles, and clarify again that this class is focused on the consulting process and the consulting skills that all three of these roles can use. All right, let's talk about last week. So last week, first week of class, it was about getting organized, an introduction to consulting and consulting competencies. So you read some stuff, including the syllabus and the assignments. You had an optional video of me going over the syllabus. You read chapters 1 through 3, and you had an optional chapter 7 to read. In terms of assignments, you did the pre-class survey. I will have the pre-class survey posted by Tuesday morning. It's right now it's about 7 o'clock on Sunday night. I cannot analyze the pre-class survey yet because people have until midnight to finish it. So I'll be working on that Monday afternoon. I will have it posted by Tuesday morning. I also asked you to add a photo to your Moodle and to participate in an introductions forum where you both posted your introduction and responded to the other people in class. And you did a consulting competencies self-assessment. And I know by reading the forums, which we'll talk about in a second, that many of you found this to be a really interesting exercise, so I'm glad for that. As I said, you had 2 discussion forums this past week. One was on consulting roles that are described in the book, and the other was the competency self-assessment. I asked you to identify and share one of the competencies or the main competency that you think you would like to continue to develop on in order to be successful. And then graduate students, you signed up for the competency that you will be using as the subject of your graduate assignment. So all of that was last week. Let's talk about what's happening this week. So this week we are going to start the first step in the consulting process, which is contracting. So you're going to read chapters 4 through 6, which are all about the contracting phase. Optionally, we're not there yet. Okay, chapters 4 through 6. So basically this talks about 3 things: communication, clarity, and getting started. So that's what is making up part of that contracting phase. Communication is incredibly critical, in particular clarity. It's really important that you have clarity early on in a project and that you are sure that you all share that clarity. By spending a little extra time up front getting that clarity, you're going to save time times something in the future trying to untangle the mess of what everybody thought you were working on. So you spend a little extra time up front getting clarity, doing the contracting, and it really pays dividends later on in the process. In particular, clarity is important at the beginning because it gives you firmer ground to stand on when scope creep occurs. So scope creep is something that happens in almost every single project I have ever worked on. Scope creep is where you agree, here's what we're going to work on, and then as the project continues, it grows and grows and grows and grows. The scope of the project creeps up in size, which is why we call it scope creep. And if you get clarity in the beginning, once you start getting some scope creep, once your internal customer says, oh, you know what, let's just gather a little extra data from these people, or let's just add these extra features or aspects or elements to the project, If you have had clarity at the beginning, it gives you the opportunity to say, I understand you want me to add this additional stuff. Here's what we originally agreed to. If we're going to do this extra stuff, here's the implications to the timeline, to the budget, to the resources that we need, et cetera, et cetera. And it lets you have that conversation in a very even, fact-based, data-based way, because you had that original agreement. Let me move to the next thing. So you need to do contracting, whether you're internal. Oh, why did I switch these two around? Whether you're external, internal, or someone with expertise. But the way that you apply the contracting process, the formality that you use is going to be very different. If you're an external consultant, you are actually going to create a contract as part of the contracting process. So when I do contracting as an external consultant, I have a document that lays out everything we agreed to and lays out timelines and costs and scope and deliverables, and there's some legal language in there about canceling and all that kind of stuff, and I sign it and the person in the organization signs it. So it is literally a contract for work between the organization and the external consultant. An internal consultant is going to have a less formal process. Unless it's part of the culture of your organization, nobody's going to be signing anything. But it's still a good idea to document it. So after you think everybody has agreed to whatever you've agreed to, it's a great idea to send an email and say, thanks for a great meeting. Here's my understanding of what we agreed to. Boom, 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 boom. So then you have it in writing, and it gives people a chance to say, oh, no, that's not what I thought we agreed to. Or what about these other things? So that's where you get the clarity. You get the clarity by both verbal and written communications. And again, as an internal consultant, I cannot stress strongly enough the importance of documenting things, because people's memories are not accurate. So if you all have an email that has the information in it, it makes it much easier to have whatever conversations you need to have in the future about the project and the expectations and what the deliverables were and all that kind of stuff. If you're someone with expertise, the contracting process is going to be way less formal. And again, I always recommend that you document things in email just for clarity purposes, but that's going to be the extent of what you do if you're someone with expertise who's using the consulting process. All right, let's keep going. So in addition to reading chapters 4 through 6, you'll also watch the results of the week 1 survey once I get them posted. And in terms of assignments, I have put you in learning teams. Because there's a number of people in class, it's hard to have useful conversations with that many people. So I have put you in learning teams to make it easier to have engaging, robust conversations. As you'll see, there are times we're still going to be in a whole class forum. That's fine. But most of the forums that are focused on the consulting process, in this case contracting, they're going to be in your learning teams. So this week, your consulting process assignment, remember, you're always going to have a consulting process assignment. You're always going to have a weekly skills practice assignment. So this week, your consulting process assignment is going to be a contracting case study. It's going to be contracting case study number 1. So you'll be discussing that in your learning teams. The consulting weekly skill practice that you're going to do this week is focused on listening or active listening skills. So this is something you're going to practice it in your real life, and then you are going to write a forum post about it. And so each of these weekly skill practices, and you're going to be doing them from now till week 6, are going to have the same kind of format. So you're going to start by watching some videos or reading about the particular skill. Then you, in real life, are going to practice that skill. And then you're going to write a reflective post by Sunday about how that went. And you'll see both in your syllabus and in the framework, I have some questions that I would like you to cover in your reflective posts. So use those as a jumping off point. And then it's not going to be required that you respond to your classmates. I encourage you to respond to your classmates because you can learn a lot from them as well as from your own experiences, but those are going to be optional. So grad students, you are also this week going to start or continue working on your grad paper. And then I do have an optional bonus assignment this week. So I have a bonus consulting process assignment, which is contracting case study number 2. And you can see, because this is a bonus assignment, I'm trying to give you enough time to get everything done. This one, you need to do your original post by Thursday and respond to just one of your peers by Sunday. So I know these dates, it's the first time that we've really sort of settled into this rhythm of we have a process assignment, we have a skills assignment, we have a bonus assignment. So I made a little chart. So here's the chart. So the forum, the consulting process, this is the one you're going to be in your learning teams. So you just go into the forum and you're automatically in your learning teams. Your initial post is due by Wednesday, and then you need to respond to at least 2 of your classmates by Sunday. And that's going to be true every week. With your skill practice, your initial reflection post is going to be due the end by Sunday. You are not required to respond to any of your classmates, although like I said, I really encourage it. And then for this week, we're not going to have bonus assignments every week, but for this week, there's an optional bonus forum assignment on the consulting process. This will be case study number 2. Your original post will be due on Thursday, and you respond to just 1 classmate minimum by Sunday. And so I know it's a little weird that I switched up the dates for the bonus assignment, but you can see the reason I did that is just to try to give you a little more time to fit it in. So hopefully this chart helps make it a little bit more clear. And as I said, moving forward, your forum, I'm going to go back up here. Moving forward, your forum on the consulting process, initial post is always due Wednesday. Respond to at least 2 classmates by Sunday. And then, and then your forum skill practice reflection is always going to be due on Sunday. So that's the rhythm that we're going to be working in for the next 5 weeks. The first one's going to be due Wednesday and Sunday. Second one is going to be due on Sunday. I think it's a lot more confusing when I try to explain it than what it actually is. But if you have questions on any of this, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you online.